Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyper Roll, where I'm going to show you some builds that I've used, not necessarily one I would consider forcing. This is one of those builds that if it happens, great, but if it doesn't, don't try to force your way into it. It probably won't turn out too well. And I will give 5 points to anyone who figures out what response I was trying to get out of the chat. No one ever answered it. I don't think anyone in this room knew what to say. I was originally setting up for a guild swift shot build, but then those NPCs popped and I had to quick grab nidalee because I realized there was the possibility of edging into Shapeshifter, but it would depend heavily on what kind of augments I get. I go with the portable forge and hope I get something that screams Shapeshifter, and none of it does. And I decide to just go with the Blitzcrank rocket-propelled fist, stick it on Shyvana, and keep her in the match. Because even if I go Shapeshifter, it's good to have Shyvana in, because again, she's going to give health to the entire team, and the Shapeshifters will increase from their starting maximum health. Now, the thing with the rocket-propelled fist is it's really, really good early, because you're literally almost eliminating 1/3 of their entire team. Obviously, as the game goes on and more champions are on the board, you end up only eliminating 1/9 of their team, so it's going to lose power throughout this match. Item choices are going to be a little bit tricky here because I'm stuck between playing for now and playing for later. Right now, a bow would be perfect because I can put it on nidalee and that will increase her attack speed. But I don't necessarily want to do anything with those two Negatron cloaks because a Dragon's Claw will be a fantastic item for Shyvana down the line. And again, you can see how incredibly disruptive that rocket-propelled fist is early in the matches, because you are just taking a player off, and so we're able to win fairly easily. Decided to go ahead and use Gnar as the item holder for the Dragon's Claw. In my mind, I am committing into this Shapeshifter build, although I probably shouldn't be doing so early because it's going to rely on a big dragon showing up later. For the next item, I decide to think more about later and go with the Chain Vest because I would love to get a Sunfire Cape onto a Shyvana along with that Dragon's Claw. You've probably also noticed that I brought Twitch into the fight. This was two purposes. It was 1, to increase everyone's attack speed, and 2, to increase the guild bonus in general. That will add a little bit more health to everyone. It's not a huge jump, but when you're dealing with the fact that the Shapeshifters are gaining a 50% bonus on their health, it does matter. Every little bit counts. It's time for our second augment, and I'm faced with one I've never seen before. Pay to win. If you refresh during a round, the champion holding a Shimmer Scale item and any Shimmer Scale champion will get a 35% increase in their attacks. I had brought in Itis because I found her very early and thought she would be helpful, and that was my reward, and I'm going to go ahead and take that. And refreshing will give nidalee, who's holding the Shimmer Scale item, and Itis a damage boost. My biggest concern with bringing in a dragon early is that it takes a player off the field because dragons count as 2, but since I had the rocket-propelled fist, I felt it was a good gamble to make, since I'm essentially taking one of their players off the field before it even starts. Now in this case, it turned out that they had a dragon as well, although that dragon came with a Heimer, but we were just able to squeak it out. The NPC round gave us a spatula, which is going to give us lots of possibilities down the line on how we want to build things out. I go ahead and take a BF sword because I did end up picking up a Jace, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get the needlessly large rod so that I can put a Hextech Gunblade onto Jace. It's a very good item on him. Right now we are dispatching teams fairly easily, and that's in large part thanks to that rocket-propelled fist, but that advantage is going to end very, very soon. This person was prepared for my little shenanigans as they had Jax in the corner, and pulling a Jax is not necessarily what you want to do. Their damage was placed central, so they had their 2 swift shots right in the middle, difficult to pull, making it easier for them to do enough damage and take us out. Advantage gone. For the third and final augment, it is gold level and there is nothing there I specifically want, so I roll and I get the Earth grab bag. Remember, I picked up the spatula earlier, so this is going to give me the ability to put an extra player on the board, which is going to be absolutely critical to this build. I can bring in a Guardian to enhance Itis and also another guild, which was Jace, to be both Shapeshifter and add to the guild buff. And we run into a team whose sole goal is to just hold everyone in place. They don't have their dragon yet. I presume they are going for a Sohm, but with that Malphite with triple ZZ Rots on, they're just hoping to hold a front line in while their backline does the damage. Sadly for them, their backline is the crazy plant lady, and she ain't gonna help too much. But it brings us to Treasure Dragon time. That first one was not what we were looking for. We can absolutely make some use of this, so we're gonna go ahead and take it. It's 3 really good items that can fit onto our champions. We can go ahead and immediately increase Jace's attack with the Rabadon Death Cap and give him some critical healing with the Hand of Justice, and then some additional casting with the Spear of Sojin. That will work really well on him. Nidalee, we can give the Rapid Fire Cannon so she can attack from a distance and throw a Infinity Edge onto Twitch, and that will give him some really strong attacks from the outside. It's also important to note that we picked up the Magnetic Remover. That's going to allow us to move the items over from Gnar to Shyvana, presuming we can get her. Builds like this are ultimately reliant on the RNG, and while we're strong right now, if we don't get Shyvana later, we're going to be in big trouble. The NPC had a Bramble Vest on it, which isn't that bad, and now we have a choice of some other items. The Redemption is likely the best one that we can put on Itis, and that will help keep our front line nice and strong, because Itis will stay in for a long time. Making Itis tanky is going to be one of the keys to this build. The real point in this build is that it is incredibly disruptive. You can see in teams that clump in this fashion, having your shapeshifters jump into the backline and knock them up every few seconds is just going to wreak havoc and allow you to win. Now, this particular round should serve as how to set up swift shots. Notice they have them split across the board. If they had clumped them into one side, I would have been able to get in and completely disrupt them, but it becomes impossible for me to focus one down. Itis does her absolute best and goes on to Xayah and holds up, but it's ultimately Varus from a distance who's able to take her down. But even though that specific match was lost, we're into the top 4, and now on a wild hunt for Shyvana, who is going to come in and be the team. It's time for our final item choice, and with a Shyvana on the team and 4 shapeshifters, it's easy. The Warmogs. The only thing I could ask for better would be to have a Morellonomicon instead of the Sunfire Cape. That would be a better item, but this works just great as well. The key is getting her up to 2 stars, and there she is. Now I want you to pay attention to how insanely disruptive this team can be. Jace comes in, knocks them all up. Gnar's gonna come in, knock them all up. Shyvana's gonna come in, knock them all up, and then set them all on fire at the same time. It is very hard for a team to come back from that, even when they have a really large Nunu trying to eat you. They're ultimately going to go down. And it is coming down to disruptive team against disruptive team. They have found their 2-star dragon, and it is all set to do a ton of damage. Their Malphite is going to spawn 3 ZZ Rots once he goes down. With a Bard and a Zoe in the back, they're going to be able to cast a lot of disruptive spells. But Shapeshifter is equally as disruptive, knocking people up and doing tons and tons of damage. Ultimately, though, keep your eye on Twitch, because just from the outside, Twitch is able to knock things out while Shyvana finishes them off for the overall victory. Hope you enjoyed seeing this crazy build, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.